Hi again, everybody. It's Hank Zone of the Grapes Unwrapped. Here I am up in beautiful Lake Apacon on a beautiful summer morning, and having the opportunity to meet Carl Venn and his really beautiful collection of old cars. And this is a 1930 Model A Ford Roadster. It's this beautiful color with beautiful details. I mean, this is the side view mirror, folks. It's right here on the attached to the spare tire. The detailing on some of this really is fantastic. This car was built in 1930. It sold for about $400. There's a lot of wine out there these days for that price, bottles of wine. It was an interesting time in the United States because it was the beginning of the Depression. It was also, the country was still pretty much locked into Prohibition, which had happened back in really toward the end of World War I. 1919, I believe, was when Amendment 18 was passed with Prohibition. And before that, the wine industry was really starting to thrive in the United States, and not really for imported wine as much as wine that was being produced in the country. With the war and with the ramp up toward Prohibition, production really was starting to slow down, especially in those Bible Belt states that really were leading the push toward Prohibition. Wine can still be produced in the country for medicinal and for religious purposes. There was a lot of wine that was marked as sacramental, whether it was sacramental or not, and also marked as medicinal. One thing that happened though at that time was that people could produce their own wine. They could produce up to approximately what today would be 1,000 bottles of wine for their quote-unquote home use at the time. And this was really because, the whole growth in wine consumption and interest was really because of the European immigration wave that had come in from 1900 until around 1920. At that time, there were forces in our country who really wanted to then start to dramatically limit that immigration, along at the same time as Prohibition had started. So even though wine was still being produced for various reasons, grapes were still being grown, grape production growth actually was still going up a little bit during Prohibition. But what happened was grape growers changed from finer, better grapes to more sturdy, thicker skinned grapes so they could ship them across the country for people who are doing home production. And in those 13, 14 years of Prohibition, a lot of wineries, and California really had led 90% of wine production in the country at that time. A lot of wineries closed. There were 800, 900 wineries at the time. Most of them had closed at that point. New people were not coming into the industry. New winemakers were literally dying off. New training, new investment, new technology was not happening. So even though there was legal and quasi-legal and illegal wine and other alcohol available, the industry really started to morph. It morphed into cheaper grapes, cheaper wine production. People wanted higher alcohol wine. They wanted sweeter wines too. It was the Depression. People wanted more bang for their buck. So that the impact of the Depression, of Prohibition, just really had such a dramatic impact on the industry. And we're still feeling that effect today. Even though we are the largest consumer of wine now in the world, not per capita, but overall consumption, there are still laws on the books that date back to the end of Prohibition that really make it difficult to either make or purchase or distribute wine. And it's kind of unfortunate that here we are almost 100 years after the end of Prohibition, and we're still feeling that impact. But let's bring it back to something positive. This is a beautiful car that was probably used for touring back around 1930. As Carl said, this was a single guy's car, and on a beautiful day, he would take this car out and probably have a picnic and probably pack a nice bottle of wine there, legal, illegal, sacramental, whatever it might have been. Beautiful day and beautiful car, and beautiful wine. This is Hank Zone of the Grapes Unwrapped. We'll see you again next time.